Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 27th regular school board meeting. At this point, we're going to do the flag salute. Do I have any children in the audience that would like to? Oh, both of you, come on up.
Perfect.
Come on up. Come on up. Miss Chambers is going to show you what to do. All right. Okay, will everybody stand up?
Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. What's your name? Wait, get back here. What's your name?
Nathan
Nathan, what's your last name?
Marzouk.
Hi, thank you for that. You did an excellent job. Thank you.
Best one we've had in a while.
Yes, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us here, everybody. Okay, I have nothing to report out of closed session, and may I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, board?
Aye.
Aye. And we have, that passes, we have an agenda, and we have Mrs. Gaines zooming in all the way from New York. Hi, Mrs. Gaines, thank you for joining us. And may I have a motion to approve the minutes
I'd like to make a motion to approve the June 23rd,
June-
June 6th, 2023 minutes.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
This is just the June 6th, right? Not the
Yes.
special meeting? Okay. Yeah.
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have approved minutes. Staff board communication, Dr. Stepanowski.
Shall we do our introductions first?
Sure.
I'll meet you at the podium.
All right then.
In no particular order, Madam President, members of the board, very excited to introduce two and a half new members to the team. Two new members and one moving ships in the fleet. First up is Dr. Victoria Marzouk, right here. She is already a proud Lupin parent, and she will now be, or is, the principal for Lupin Hill Elementary. She's got 15 years teaching administrative experience in public education. The past 3 years, she's been the equivalent of the assistant principal for Granada Hills Charter School. Charters have strange title names. What was her actual title, Ms. Davenport?
Assistant Administrative Director.
Sounds like
Before that, she was dean of students for Granada Hills High School. Before that, she was director of special education at Magnolia Public Schools. She was also 8 years social studies teacher and was dean of academics. She has her doctorate in educational leadership and master's from Pepperdine and her bachelor's in mass communication from, go Bruins, UCLA.
Dr. Marzouk, on behalf of the Board of Education and the entire district, welcome to the Las Virgenes family. We are thrilled to have you. I have an official pin for you.
Thank you so much.
You can pin it. And do you want to come and say a few words and introduce your husband and your children?
Sure, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Madam President, Dr. Stepanowski, board members. This is truly a blessing to me and my family. This is my husband, Joey, my son, Nathan, and my Ari. I have a second grade, soon to be third grader at Lupin Hill, and it has been truly just the best experience for me. Lupin Hill is a gem of a school with its diverse student population, absolutely connected and supportive teachers. Mr. Foley has laid the groundwork to build just an amazing school. I've been there the past few days and have just been very warmly welcomed. So I'm so appreciative of this opportunity and can't wait to prove to you that you have made a great choice, and I am so excited. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
All right, next up, pending board approval. We wanted to get this next person in here before we take off for about 6 weeks or so. So pending board approval tonight. I'm pleased to bring up to the podium our next principal for Calabasas High School, Bennett Woodkey. his experience, 21 years of experience in education, all in Conejo Valley Unified. So we will work hard to un-Conejo you. It's not a pejorative. It's a wonderful district right next door. We're strong partners. Very happy to steal talent from them whenever we can. Ms. Chambers, Ms. Marshall. More about Principal Watke, 14 years of leadership experience, 7 teaching high school Spanish. He is bilingual in Spanish. Past 4 years, he's been assistant principal for Acacia Magnet. Did I say that right? Acacia. Principal at Acacia Magnet School for Rich Studies in Conejo. Before that, before he was the elementary school principal, he served as the assistant principal for curriculum and instruction at Newbury Park High School, 5 years there, and 2 years as assistant principal of athletics at Westlake High School. He has been in our PASC program as a coach, possesses excellent interpersonal leadership communication skills, masters in education and policy studies from CSUN, Go Matadors, and a bachelor's in Spanish from BYU. We're thrilled to have Mr. Watke join the team.
And Mr. Watke, on behalf of the entire Board of Education, the entire district, we are so thrilled to welcome you and your family to our family of LVUSD.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Stepanowski and cabinet, thank you for having me here. I'm going to turn it over to my son, Luke. I'm just kidding. Never.
Okay, that's funny. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't want to come up here, so I wanted to get him. So this is my wife, Jennifer, and my son, Luke. He's going to be a freshman at Moore Park High School. I have 3 other high school age children and 1 8th grade daughter, and they are very busy, and they are not able to be here tonight. But I just want to let you know I'm very excited to come here and be un-Conejo'd and
Excellent.
join Las Virgenes. I've already been given my marching orders to beat Oak Park and Westlake, so I'm very happy about that.
Yes.
So we'll be working on that. I'm really thrilled to be back at high school. I'm really excited to be working at Calabasas and with great students and families and teachers, and I know that we're going to be able to have an awesome experience together and do some great things. So thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, you know him, you love him, Scott Foley. Oh, bringing down the house. Wow. All right. Scott, a little bit about Scott, if you don't know. He's coming from Lupin, where he did an amazing 6 years as principal, and will be our principal next year for A.E. Wright Middle School. Total of 11 years K-12 experience. Standout principal in Lupin for 6 years. Successful AP before that of 5 years at Gore High School. Scott effectively managed a $14 million construction project. He is probably our most experienced principal relative to construction now. He has shared that knowledge and experience with our other principals as we get ready for very exciting Measure S projects. Obviously, we know Scott, tremendous communication skills, leadership skills, built a very strong relationship with staff, students, parents, the entire community. He served on our collective bargaining unit for 9 years, 2013 to 2022. Before his 11 years in Las Virgenes, he was a teacher at Reseda High School, where he taught health, leadership, PE, public relations, life skills. He has a master's in administration from National University and a bachelor's from CSUN. Scott Foley.
Scott Foley, I have a pin for you, which means you probably have now a collection of them. We're thrilled to welcome you to A.E. Wright, and thank you for taking on that role of middle school. You're going to be great. Our faculty, staff, parents, and students are just going to be in great hands, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, School Board. Thank you, Dr. Stepanowski and Cabinet. This is my 3rd time being pinned. I love this district. Thank you, Dr. Stepanowski, for hiring me 12 years ago and for being such a great mentor. I want to thank Lupin Hill and that school community. They were amazing to me. I learned so much. I will never forget them, but Nathan, once you're a tiger, you're always a tiger, right? I'm here with my daughter, Georgia. She's my date tonight.
Yay.
But she didn't want to come up here. She wanted to be my paparazzi, so she's taking pictures.
She's doing a good job.
I am super excited to be the principal of A.E. Wright. Such an amazing school. I've watched grow for so many years. All my students from Lupin go there. I told the culminating class this year, they were my first kindergarten class. They're my last 5th grade class, and they're going to be my first 6th grade class. And then I told them I was going to go to high school with them after that. And I actually heard a student say, no, Mr. Foley, I can't take it anymore. I need a break. But I'm super excited, and go Spartans.
We're just going to act like the new principal of Calabasas didn't hear that last part. I'm not looking at him, Steve. Did he notice anything Scott said? Didn't flinch. Excellent. She's still here. All right.
Okay.
Whoever wants to can be in the photo.
That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. You can't even carry it.
Oh, yeah, you got some swag.
Well, that was really fun. Ooh, swag. Okay, Dr. Stepanowski, we're going to
you.
continue on with staff board communication.
Oh, she's not here yet? Oh, wow. We'll have to try and embarrass her later on. So congrats to our very own Val Lothian. She was picked for 40 under 40. She'll be recognized July 21st at the Hyatt Regency. There's a picture from with her and her little mini-me. They're amazing. I think her daughter will be a student at Chaparral next year, I think, in TK her. They are twins. I think this is a photo from when they went to the Barbie World Experience.
World of Barbie.
The World of Barbie. I like to call it Barbie Land.
And they've changed the event, right? So we can't go to this, right?
I think it's just for who's been more recently. Dr. Gleason, were you there a couple years ago?
One guest, right?
Is it kind of a one-guest situation?
Yeah, it's a one guest kind of deal. I went, at least last year it was.
Because I know someone else on there too. I would have loved to have gone.
We were coming out of COVID though, so it could be a different.
Yeah.
They sold tables the first time.
Yeah, but I think I looked it up and it said one, yeah, like you couldn't just buy tickets.
All right, we are enrolling. So TK enrollment, we got this out on social media and other places. Very exciting to be doing this. Go to lvusdenrollment.org for all the information you need. The birthdays, by the way, students who turn 5 between September 2nd and April 2nd can enroll in TK. Class size 1 to 12. So sign up and be a part of it now. Next slide, please. Congrats to our class of 2023. There's our very own Justin Pisotnik on the right-hand side and a bunch of students from Agora on the left-hand side. Congrats as we send them off. And of course, board member Ms. Gaines there as well. We didn't have any sun, but it also meant we didn't have any heat, which was nice.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Had the perfect temperature for it.
I think it was better than ever in terms of the sound. Like, I think it being kind of cool and overcast, like at least at Agora, the sound was the best it's ever been. Everyone could hear. It was just great.
I like the 9 a.m. starts a lot. The high schoolers, I think,
Yeah.
were noticeably more chill.
Yeah.
It was great. The odd.
52 minutes. It was awesome.
Oh, it went really well. Yeah, many people said both Agora and Calabasas graduations, the
Agora
middle
was the
schools
fastest
were,
ever in history.
really phenomenal. Just a dignified celebration of the students and their hard work and sending them off the right way. I think that's it. Next slide. I think that's all from me. Ms. Chambers?
Go to the next slide, please. Madam President, members of the board, we will be hosting our third job fair in LVUSD on July 27th here in the district office to hire some of our harder to fill classified positions such as paraeducators, child nutrition, and substitute teachers. We'd love to invite you to attend, and we'll be sending out more information and advertising in the upcoming weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Ms. Patterson?
Could I have the next slide?
Madam President, members of the board, all of the secondary principals and I met with the Anti-Defamation League, and every secondary school has decided to become a no place for hate school next year. And I thought you might be interested, one of the pieces that we thought would really help our students just kind of embody these attributes that we want them to have is that students are asked to take a no place for hate pledge. So I've put up just a sample pledge for you to see. We're just excited for our students to have some visual reminders and student meetings where they really come together and think about that we want to be a place of great tolerance and acceptance.
Ms. Davenport.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Happy to report that Find My Genius, our summer program in partnership with the YMCA, got off to a smooth start at Sumac Elementary this week. About 175 students are participating in this 5-week programming for high-quality education and enrichment opportunities to support their academic and social emotional growth. The principal for Find My Genius is Eliana Castillo, and the program director is Julie Burkett. And the program runs until Friday, July 28th. Excited about it.
Fabulous, thank you. Very exciting. Oh, we like to visit that.
Yeah. Please do.
So if you can arrange for that or send us some dates and times and.
Yes, that'd be Sounds good.
Thank you.
We'll do that.
Dr. Gleason.
I think I have the next slide. Madam President, members of the board, there was confetti in this room to celebrate, believe it or not, our 11th cohort of PASC has graduated, and our 7th cohort of CASC has officially graduated. Ms. Stein, on behalf of the board, accepted the class, and what's exciting as you look at this picture is you see a lot of past grads now who are teaching, are current administrators, but also helping teach and coach the future. So full circle of leadership life in action.
Dr. Severs.
Madam President, members of the board, summer is here, but staff is already beginning preparations for our new employee orientation. We got it scheduled this year for August 18th and 19th. Excited to welcome all of our new employees, including 2 of whom we just met, Mr. Whitkey, principal of Calabasas High School, and Dr. Marzouk, principal of Lupin Hill. Congratulations to our new employees, and we look forward to welcoming them to LVUSD on August 18th.
And that slide is for Ms. Falk. Ms. Falk.
Madam President, members of the board, ESY started, secondary started last week, elementary started this week. We have about 225 students participating from preschool all the way to post-secondary.
And which school, which schools?
Agora High School has our secondary, and YB has Buttercup in our elementary program.
And also, if we can get some dates and times to visit?
Absolutely.
We'd love that.
That would be
Thank
great.
you.
That concludes staff communication.
Thank you. Mrs. Gaines?
I'm going to pass. Can you hear me, though?
Now we
Yep.
can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm going to pass.
Mrs. Cutbill?
In the interest of time, I will pass too.
Mrs. Mingus?
All I want to say is that these past, I want to thank everyone for all of their hard work and wish them a great summer. And these past culminations and graduations, I think, were the nicest weather of any I have ever attended, including my own children's. It was wonderful, and the speeches were wonderful, and have a great summer.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
I'll pass it along.
Okay, and I just want to also thank everyone, the 5th graders and the 8th graders and the 12th graders and the PASC and CASC, the culminations, the graduations, the smiles everywhere are just wonderful. That's what this hard work is all about. And thank you to all of our employees, and wish everybody a relaxing and good summer, because it'll go by in a blink. So enjoy it while we have it. Thank you to Cabinet for all that you do to lean in and support our schools and our staff and our students. So thank you, and our families. Thank you. And with that, this is the time in the agenda where we hear from people that for items not on the agenda. We have no speakers for that. So if I can have a motion to approve consent A, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions on anything on consent A? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. May I have a motion to approve consent B, please?
So moved.
Moved. Oh, second.
Okay, and hearing no questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of consent B?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. First action item is approval of termination of joint use agreement, Agora High School tennis courts. Dr. Stepp.
Madam President, members of the board, this is an agreement that really wasn't working for the city of Agoura or wasn't working for us. Also, as part of our work to tighten up access to the campuses, this is something we looked closely at and reviewed, and Dr. Gleason has worked closely with Agora staff. Dr. Gleason.
Madam President, members of the board, as Dr. Stepanowski shared, we have beautifully resurfaced courts over at Agora, and the existing joint use agreement was mutually determined to no longer be mutually beneficial, with new constraints on school safety that have emerged in the last 5 years, as well as the obligation of the city to help invest in the courts that they have less access to. So this terminates the agreement if the board approves tonight, and then the Agora City Council approves it in a couple weeks.
Terrific. Any questions?
I move approval of termination of the joint use agreement with the city of Agoura Hills.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Gleason, for working with the city of Agora. This, as you said, this agreement was not working for both parties. We couldn't hold up our end, they couldn't hold up their end, but all in the best spirit and spirit of collaboration and doing best for residents and students. So we appreciate your hard work on this. And with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next item is Agora Youth Basketball Association.
Madam President, members of the board, AYBA has been a model volunteer group to work with. They really are a joy. They visited me just yesterday to present me with a check for $5,000 to wipe out our students who had fees, excess fees, unpaid fees from the child nutrition program.
That's extremely generous.
Out of nowhere.
They have been so amazing.
Yes, they are a joy to work with. They are a lot of alum on their board, obviously parents as well, and they support youth basketball. And so this is a restructuring. They've got several facilities they utilize, I think 3, Lindero, AE Wright, and Agora High School. And this is a update for their joint use agreement with AE Wright Middle School. Dr. Gleason.
Madam President, members of the board, as has been shared, AYBA has been a pleasure to work with. They serve our community in so many ways. This joint use agreement helps move us closer to the market rate for facility use, with a 25% increase compounded annually for the first 2 years, followed by a 10% increase thereafter. As has been shared, AYBA has contributed to capital improvements at our schools, and thus this all complies with the Civic Center Act.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'd also like to add that over the years, when we have done parcel taxes or bond measures, AYBA, their leadership has stepped up and made donations to the campaigns and are always asking what more they can do. So they are a pleasure to work with. We thank you, Dr. Gleason, for taking the lead on this. This is a 5-year contract, and with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that passes 5-0. Next is Agora Pony Baseball. Dr. Stepanowski.
Madam President, members of the board, Agora Pony Baseball lease is before the board. Staff recommends its approval. We have all worked hard to balance the interests and needs of Agora Pony Baseball. My children have been a part of that. I've personally left my daughter right as soon as she got home from college, left her and went up to Agora and went up to Lupin and spent over an hour with Mr. Bowles walking the facilities, better understanding his needs and the programmatic needs. Of course, it is a volunteer group and they provide a great service, but we have worked hard to balance the needs of Agora Pony Baseball with balancing the impact on the neighborhood. Lupin was really never designed to be a sports complex. It was actually designed to be a middle school. And it is a significant piece of land there. I think we've spent about 10 months working with Agora Pony Baseball to, again, meet their needs and balance the impact on the neighborhood, probably somewhere between 15 and 20 meetings, including Dr. Gleason, myself, a mediator. They appointed a mediator to it. And then I think most recently with Dr. Gleason and their board. And so as a result of that hard work, we bring this before the board tonight. Their current lease expires on Friday, June 30th, and so we'd love to continue that relationship with APB. And staff recommends the board approve the lease, and we hope Agora Pony Baseball signs the lease.
Would you like a motion
Uh,
before we discuss, or?
You sure? Motion, please?
I move we approve the two-year joint use agreement. I would add with it execution by both parties by 5 o'clock on Friday, June 30th.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Discussion, Mr. Lawrence, which I'm sure everybody would like to, this is the only time that it's been on the agenda, so this is the opportunity that the board now has to be able to speak. We've had many speakers the past couple meetings speak. We've heard the community loud and clear. And Mr. Lawrence, would you like to share?
Thanks. I'd like to just first start by thanking everybody for the time and energy into this. I know that we're not a Parks and Rec department, and sometimes it might have seemed like that in the last kind of 6 months with the amount of time and energy that both sides and the neighbors have put in this, so I appreciate that. I thank you for the process you put in place, because I know it's, I think, as we heard, as I said a couple weeks ago, this is one of those, at least from my experience, it's one of those issues where there's no, from my perspective, and I think shared pretty broadly, there's no bad actor here. We've got two groups that have legitimate concerns. We have an all-volunteer sports league that is committed to creating great opportunities for our kids, that has grown and grown and grown because they want to create opportunities for every child who wants it. And at the same time, we're bursting at the seams at an elementary school that wasn't designed for this, and neighbors are asking for and deserve some, I think, decrease in the activity. So not easy. It's easier when it's black and white and there's one side that's clearly, right or wrong you want to lay on. So I appreciate all the time and energy of this. I would like, because it's the first time we've had a chance to talk this through, I read the contract, spent a lot of time looking at it over the weekend. I've talked to a number of coaches and parents. I think 95% in the substance of the contract I'm prepared to support and vote for. There are a couple things that are very tactical and small that have, I think, either maybe weren't recognized. It would be, wrenches that could potentially throw the whole thing off the base that I'd like to just raise for consideration by the board to have a conversation about. And if we don't want to make the changes to the contract, that's fine, but I want to at least give them voice if that's okay. May I go through those?
Yes, I would start by asking Dr. Gleason those
Just
questions.
interrupt for
Yeah.
one.
Wait, excuse me.
1 minute. They can't see. Mrs. Stein, do we have any speakers on this?
We do, and I'm going to let the board speak first.
Okay, I just wanted to know because I can't see. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the
ahead,
first
Mr.
concern,
Lawrence.
sorry. Ms. Gaines, are you done? Okay.
Sorry.
The first issue I had was related to makeup games under Article 3, Section A, the use of joint facilities, times of exclusive use. I have a couple concerns about this section, mainly because I just went through this, and obviously we had an unprecedented number of canceled games this last season. But if this language were in place this year, our kids would have missed a third of their games and not had the opportunity to reschedule them based on the way I read it. And I just would love to get clarification if I'm reading it correctly as intended by the district. So as I read the section, it says if multiple games for a single team are postponed due to unforeseen weather and/or natural disasters, the league can request a short extension of the season to the district's designee. The designee will review the request that must include clear documentation of the cancellations. It is up to the discretion of the district to allow for a short extension of the season. It is understood that all rescheduled games must follow the allotment of time scheduled outlined in agreement. There are 4 concerns I have with this one. The first is it only allows for rescheduled games to happen as an extension of the season. That, as I read, as an extension means games can be added after the normal season ends. The challenge with that, with Agora Pony Baseball, is when the normal season ends, All-Stars begins, playoffs begin right away, So those makeup games have to happen before that, so you have the seeding of the playoff games. So having it be after the fact basically makes it moot. They can't make up their game. So I would, that's one. So
Well, let's stop
Yeah.
there. Dr. Gleason, could you speak to the intent and the rationale for the language in the contract on this, please?
Language across the board, across the 20 meetings and hours in this has been to reduce volume and have a compromise that works for both parties. We added this language, so all of these elements will add some creative thinking and strain for the Agora Pony Baseball League. And a suggestion for them, though we're not running the league, is to plan for rain and plan the season around that so that All-Stars starts after potential makeup games that are already booked in. Similar to what we would do in a school district where it snows all the time. We would factor in snow days before the end of the school year, even if we might not need them. So I would encourage the league under this provision, who is able to make up games by extending the season, to plan that into their annual calendar, that per the lease you will submit quarterly.
Well, I guess I'm confused as to, if the goal is to limit volume. Makeup games have zero impact on volume. You're trading one day that you didn't have a game on a Saturday because they're rained out for another time you're going to play those games. There is zero impact on volume, one for one. Yet this requirement makes it extremely hard to fulfill and is putting another onerous requirement on APB that has no impact on volume. So I agree that our goal is volume. So things that don't impact volume.
This has an
APB.
impact on daily volume.
Yeah.
You could you could have games on Sundays, which are supposed to end at 3 p.m. now, go beyond that. So it completely dissolves the intent of the daily use of the joint use agreement and also puts a monitoring burden on both parties where, candidly, we've had concerns.
I think that's fair. Next.
I don't think it's fair.
Okay,
I think that you create a
it's going to
construct.
take yeah. What's your next concern?
Again, on the same time of makeup games, I think there's an issue around, I don't understand why the team has to have 2 games canceled to be able to make up a game. That seems like an arbitrary addition. If a game is canceled, they should be able to make up that game. If we're trying to manage volume, a game-for-game cancellation should be fair. To say to the team, sorry, you have to lose 2 games before you can have one back, just seems arbitrary.
So, when you have a rain season like this, the intent of the language there is when you have a rain season like this that could disproportionately impact one team, we certainly would never want that burden to fall on one team that could lose 3-4 games. The challenge is bandwidth. This is a lease or a joint use agreement, that requires a lot of bandwidth, the more detail that you add to it. And so I would venture to say that if Mr. Bull reached out to us at any point and had a good case for why games should be made up, in the good faith and trust, we would work up with them.
We have spent an exorbitant amount of time on a 9-page contract. You have a very explicit line in here that says you have to miss 2 or more games to be valid for it.
Correct.
So we're not going to let him out of that going forward. So my question, because we have a contract saying that's the rules and the guidelines.
We also have a contract, there's language in the contract that on rained out games that they contact the district and they talk to the district about it, but highlighted somewhere.
But for that, it says the only time you can do that is
well-
if you've missed 2 or more games.
Okay, what's your next one?
Well, help me understand why we're telling kids you're going to miss a game and you cannot make it up. If our goal is managing volume, that has no impact on volume.
That has an impact on volume. All these things do.
It has zero impact on volume.
It has
We're going to
during the
have to
day.
agree to disagree.
Yeah, we're going to
here,
have
and
to.
This is
it
not
has-
going to get
on-
anywhere.
Game for game, it doesn't, but it does on the site. On the site, it has volume on the site whenever those games are made up and playing. They're extra games.
I just think
So-
this is another impact that is unnecessary, I think.
Well, it's a compromise, so keep going.
It doesn't feel like a compromise.
Well, it does to me, so keep going.
Well, I think to address that, if you remember the last time we had a board meeting, we had this room filled with individuals that said, keep Pinto.
Yeah.
So we had for months I had been working with the joint use agreements designee, Chris Bull, and we had agreed on Pinto moving. We were actually talking about the steps that would go there until they changed the negotiator. What the league, APB has asked throughout this, keep Pinto at Lupin. We want Saturday and Sunday games, no fee increases, support expansion so that Mustang can practice, extend the season for rain delays, practice allocations for preseason. We've given on all those. So
On all
it would not be accurate to communicate to the community that we have not compromised.
Help me understand, 'cause, this is important. How have we compromised when the net benefit, there's no increase that they've received from this contract? We've compromised on taking away less than we could have taken away, but they've given up a third of their games. They've given up an entire field. They've moved an entire league off the site. They've given up shortened times on Sundays. They're losing games on Saturday. They now have to give up 3 Sundays. So it goes both ways. So the reality is, yes, you've taken less pounds of flesh, but we haven't added anything back into the bucket that they didn't have before.
Yes, we did. We added Pinto. I mean, as
Yeah,
far
we
as.
were not,
Pinto was already there.
we were moving
wait.
Pinto, and the message was absolutely, Pinto will kill the league. Now, it's these other things will kill the league. I want to put a picture up because I'd like to say a few words. Okay, I'd like to put this up because I want the community to see this and anyone who's covering this. I want you to look at the Lupin Hill. This is the map of the campus. I want you to know how this room isn't full of Lupin Hill parents. I can't tell you why. Because when you look at the campus, what's in yellow, that's what's available to our students to play on, to use. What isn't available is all that land to the right. I've crunched the actual number. 39.7% of this site, and this is a shame on us, 39.7% of this site is not available to the children. That's who we represent. That's who you represent, is the children who go to school there. And if you actually
represent the
cut
whole
out what's, I have the floor. If you actually cut out what's below the red line, that is that steep, steep slope that is not usable by anybody, anyhow, for anything. If you take that, then it jumps to 46%, 47%, something like that. So to say that we're not being giving here, I think it's, I just want the community to see what our kids have to play on and what we're talking about for $20,000 a year.
And I would like to have an opportunity for all board members to speak. Mrs. Gaines, would you like to say something?
Sure. I'd like to thank Dr. Stepanowski and Dr. Gleason for what I think an incredible number of hours spent on this and bending over backwards to try to find compromise. And Mr. Lawrence, to your point, not everybody's getting something. And I don't know that the goal for me was to add things for Pony Baseball. It was to find a compromise, and everybody gave something. Pony Baseball did, the neighbors did, I did. If you give me the terms of the contract today, I'd take out Sunday. So it was compromise for everybody. And as Dr. Gleason said, at first they said Pinto would kill the league. So we gave on that. Not having Sunday would kill the league. Not increasing fees would kill the league. I mean, they are getting use of our property for way below market. And we did not increase it in this next contract.
Can I finish the last couple items ahead that I'd like to go through?
Okay, and then we're going to move on? Okay.
I mean, I'm hoping you're open to some of these changes because some of these are very tactical. It looks, when I'm reading the contract under summer season timing, it says that the league has access to the fields for weekday practices from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I believe that's incorrect. It should be 4 p.m. to dusk. They've always had till dusk. There's no parents to do practice from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. because they work. So by default, you've eliminated all ability to have practice on fields on the summer that they used to have access to.
There's no accident in this contract. That is not a typo.
Thank you very much.
I mean, take a breath. I mean, these are big changes that you're making and have a huge impact. So you're eliminating practice facilities for the entire league during the week during the summer.
I think, Mr. Lawrence, what's important is on behalf of the board, I have been designated to litigate these details through, for 10 months. And now, as it goes to approval, we are sitting up here renegotiating again.
That's our job, Mr. Gleason.
No, it isn't.
it is not.
It is not our
As
job.
elected officials,
It is
to not
not our
rubber
job.
stamp what you
No,
do. It's
but-
to have a conversation about it.
Approval is not a rubber stamp, and some of us have been very involved in this from the
Right.
beginning. This represents 10 months, countless meetings, hours, and the core mission that we have here is about our public school students. That's what Dr. Gleason is meant to be doing. We have many tenants. We have many tenants that for 10 times this amount, 20 times this amount, and we spend 2 hours negotiating on them. He has spent literally hundreds of hours on this. So we have taken a breath. So to come in at the last minute and to try and get into the minutia of this
I've
is
raised these
grossly
issues for
inappropriate.
months during closed
And you
session,
are
and we've chosen-
negotiating not on behalf of who you're meant to represent.
Mr.
I
Lawrence,
represent
you
the-
told us to find a way to keep Pinto.
Yep,
And we did.
Mr. Lawrence, we've heard that time and time and time from you and from people standing room only in this boardroom, speaker after speaker, saying, keep Pinto. First, we heard keep Sunday, so that was okay, that's the red line. Then we heard go back and watch the meeting. We heard from every speaker, keep Pinto. It will fracture the league. It will end the league. You've even said that to us. You said go back after the last meeting. We went back to closed session, and you said.
And I appreciate that you went back, but my concern with some of these issues I'm raising is whether they're unintended or not, or they're intended. Some of them are poison pills that actually take away the benefit of Pinto by actually crippling it. I want to make sure we raise it and have the discussion so there's no confusion in a year from now when we have 400 parents in here saying, we can't say we didn't know this was going to happen. So I will complete my list. If you want to deny all of them, that's fine, but I think it's important to raise. We added a new addition to this, that they must not only complete their games by dusk. We moved that now to 7:30 p.m. or earlier. We're now saying that they must vacate the facility by that time. That is now placing the requirement upon APB to get every single parent off the facility, the groundskeeper, the snack shack person, by dusk, which means the games are going to have to end even earlier than 7:30 p.m. We are creating a situation where it's going to be impossible for us to monitor who's responsible and who's not, whereas a game end time, and if it needs to be 7:30 p.m., which is earlier than it's been in the past, that's fine. But to put the onus upon the league for getting every parent off the facility by dusk, that's not an issue of volume or traffic or noise if we have people still working to clean things up, but you're going to be fining them $2,000 a pop for that. I don't understand why we've added the vacate the facility by dusk. If it's game end time, that's what we're driving towards, noise, and there's a natural progression from people leave. If we leave this the way it is, you're going to have games that don't finish, and they're going to have to come back on Sunday. So those 26, 27, 28 cars that came on Saturday for the last game that aren't going to be able to finish are going to be driving back into the neighborhood the next day for 15, 20 minutes of playtime because we've created this vacate the facility by dusk. So I would ask that we strike that one sentence out and leave it as a game end time. And if you want to make it 7:30, which is earlier than it's been in the past, it used to be dusk, make it 7:30, that's fine. But don't hold the league accountable for every single person must be off the facility by dusk, because you're going to create a lot more problems and more traffic coming in the neighborhood.
My feeling about this is I want to trust Chris Bowles and their leadership. I want to trust them to be creative. I know they can do it. I know they can, you can speak when we're done. But I know they can be creative, and I know they're very appreciative of this, and if they can't, they don't have to sign the lease. So, but I have every faith that there are smart people there that can be creative, and this is only a 2-year lease, so we can see how it goes, and I'm sure that it's going to be successful, and they can come back for a longer lease after it's after.
But why would we want to have 28 cars come back into the neighborhood the next day when we're controlling volume?
I think that's
Well, I wanna-
with great respect, I don't think that's a fair question. They have to schedule to end by 7:30. So just similar to your question about rainouts, they're now going to have to build things in their schedule that they haven't had to consider before. A consideration for you as to the why. Think about, we don't have the Lupin neighborhood in here tonight, right? The Lupin neighborhood would say if you have games that end at 7:30 and you have noise then until sunset, you haven't given them the balance of which they bought their houses.
But you understand that when I talk about the poison pill of the scenario, yes, you gave them Pinto, but now you've said the games have to be over by earlier than 7:30 because they have to be off the ground. You've now inserted an hour buffer into the games that didn't used to be there.
We have, not Ryan, we.
Yeah, we.
Well, I mean, no, we have not yet because we haven't voted on it yet.
Right.
So
but
far, you have.
Staff.
But these were negotiated items, and.
These last ones came in, as my understanding, and talking to the parents and coaches, after they were surprised as they didn't anticipate. That's why I'm raising it, because they are, in many cases, potential poison pills that make it very difficult to fulfill and build the league. Yes, they got Pinto, but they got it with all these constraints.
You have to shrink volume somehow. And so we wanted to do it by Pinto. We heard the community loud and clear. And so I'm going to ask Mrs. Menges if she'd like to say a few words.
I just want to thank everyone for the amount of hours that they put into this. It's really taken a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of patience, and I appreciate everybody's efforts to go into this. And I do feel that everyone is giving something in this agreement, and our goal as has been stated many times, was to, as a district, has always been to reduce the volume on Lupin Hills campus. And we want to be good neighbors. That's the philosophy we have at all of our school sites. And we feel like we have not been good neighbors at Lupin Hill, and it's creating a lot of change, and change is scary and change is hard, but sometimes change is really good. And I think that the changes we have in place here are good.
Thank you, Mrs. Menges. And I'm just going to add that this has been 10 months of negotiation of, in my humble opinion, moving the goalpost from Sundays, again, if we're going to talk about and sit up here and negotiate, which is not our role. Dr. Gleason is the agent to negotiate these contracts. I would remove Sundays. That's me. I would give these residents a break, but I'm not negotiating the contract. So everybody has to give. I can tell you there are homeowners up around the school that are not pleased at all and will not be pleased, and we will hear from them. There is APB who didn't get everything they wanted, and believe me, as a board and as a district, we didn't get everything we wanted. And it's called compromise, and we teach our children that, right? We teach our children that, and we teach our children don't move the goalposts. When we say what we mean, and we can negotiate and we compromise. So again, I know that APB has creative leadership. They will work on this. They will talk to Dr. Gleason, and if they don't sign, I believe from what I'm hearing, there are other leagues out there that may want to take this over. We could also look at a joint softball and for girls and boys. So soccer, all kinds of things. So it's up to, the board will be voting on this in a minute. Right before we vote, I'm going to ask Mr. Bowles.
I will skip my other items because it's clear they're all going to be shot down and not given a chance to be voiced. There's one very easy one I would like to request because it's actually a substantive tactical issue for the league, and that is you're requesting the 3 Sundays that be canceled, and you're requesting to know those Sundays by December 31st in the contract. The league does not have full visibility into its calendar until January 31st. A simple ask is to shift that in the requirement to say, let us know by January 31st when your 3 Sundays are. I mean, again, unless we're just literally, for the sake of being sticks in the mud, not going to move, that is something that is just, it has zero impact on volume
You know, Mr.
in any way,
Lawrence,
shape, or form.
stick in the mud. Let's not make this personal. Let's be
It
kind
certainly
and
feels like people think
respectful.
it's personal.
We're not. We've been doing this for 10 months, and we heard them loud and clear. Keep Pinto. So, Dr. Gleason, I assume that was in there intentionally for December?
Guys, 20 rounds of negotiations, that hasn't come up.
Okay.
So
Mr. Bowles?
is it not something you can change?
I'll take direction from the board.
No. Mrs. Gaines?
I just wanted to say, being the senior member in some ways, when I got on the board and through several years of learning the processes, I would say I would disagree with Mr. Lawrence. We don't negotiate the contracts and we don't negotiate them public. We give direction to Dr. Gleason, Dr. Stepp, or whoever to negotiate. We have hundreds of contracts each year. And the board, if they're, and we gave direction to try to keep Pinto, if that's, was going to be kill the league. And then if the board doesn't like the contract, we vote it down and we give staff direction to come up with a new one. So that's how we vote down a contract. We don't typically change it at the dais.
Thank you, Mrs. Gaines, for that very poignant discussion and explanation of our process. Mr. Bull, I'd like to invite you up. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name.
Chris Bull.
On the mic.
Chris Bull. Thank you. We agree that the cities of Calabasas and the Virgenes Hills need to step up
A little louder for me.
and offer better options. It's not a started if I've lost the.
Thank you.
We agree that the city of Calabasas and Agoura Hills need to and should have continued to work on providing options so the schools do not have to pick up the slack regarding being home to core sports. We hope that that happens in the future. We hope to work together regarding that and doing that. We understand the neighbors' need of relief and of traffic and volume. I think I said it before. I used to live on Attleboro. I was probably one of the earlier people of this group to understand why that need was there. We understand change is difficult after 30 years. That's one of the reasons why this took so long. We did not want this to take so long, but there was a lot of education on both ends of needs, requirements, things along that line. So I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your time regarding doing that. We understood that removing Pinto geographically was the best thing to do. It was the field that was in people's backyards. It was the simplest, most straightforward way to do that. We also appreciated working with you guys to try to, your group, to have Pinto be part of the league there. It's a core division. We worked in a way to be able to do that of kind of a like-to-like of another group. One of the things that's tough here is, and I'll just get straight to the point, is the things that are coming up here are 11th hour changes. They weren't part of the 10 months of the discussion. They were part of the last week. We have 2 changes that came up that will not be best for the kids and will severely affect our ability to provide youth sports options to the children of our community. For the first time ever, we're going to need to limit enrollment. We're going to need to tell kids, I'm sorry, you can't play this spring or this fall. Those 2 items, just to be very specific about it, one will cause us to have a reduction in Pinto of 24 kids, and the other will be 24 kids during the spring, and potentially more because of time constrictions. Those 2 items are the 7:30 end. We start games at 5 o'clock. Our games can have no new inning at 2:15 for certain ages. Those games will not finish. That means I will not be able to, or we will not be able to have the 11 and 12-year-olds play games at Lupin this year. That time does not allow us to do that and have that ability to do it. This came in so late in the process, we did not have a forum to discuss what that 7:30 meant. I forget who brought, Mr. Lawrence, I think you brought up that 7:30 as an end time would give us enough time, but to get people out of there, we actually need to end the games 20, 25 minutes before to do that. We will not be able to have regulation games, which means we can't play with other leagues. The last one is 1 hour buffers versus 45 minutes. With 45 minutes,
Thank
you
you.
don't lose players for the fall.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, with that, I'm going to ask for a vote. All those in favor of voting for the contract as is with Goraponi to sign it no later than June 30th by, what did you say, 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay, abstain? Nothing. So it passes 4-1. Thank you very much. We wish you good luck and creativity at Goraponi Baseball. Thank you. Vendors, I think we're at transportation vendors as needed, Dr. Stepanowski.
Dr. Gleason.
Madam President, members of the board, this list of transportation vendors was part of an RFP process to enhance our ability to have field trips and after-school events. This went through a formal RFP. We had, I believe, 2 entities who were scored. The staff is recommending approving the list of transportation vendors to expand our ability to serve students beyond the Durham contract.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve. May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Terrific having extra vendors to be able to fall back on. Thank you. With that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you. Next one is solar. Dr.
Madam President, members of the board, very exciting to bring this forward to the board. One of our Measure S promises that we are getting an early jump on was solar. Right thing for the environment and right thing financially for the district. This has the potential to remove almost $2 million in annual expenditures for the school district from our general fund, which is awesome. This is simply a contract to work with the company to work on the design of the energy services agreement. Dr. Gleason.
Madam President, members of the board, this is the 3rd time we've been talking about solar. If you remember, the last time we had Forefront come in for a design contract, and we said we'd bring this back later in the summer with the full cost and scope outlined as is in this contract. Of course, in engaging in any contract like this, we will involve the Division of State Architects and have already done a CEQA resolution with respect to it. Great news for LVUSD. Not only are we going to have clean energy shade for students, but also roughly a $2 million savings to annual energy costs to our general fund, and over the life of the panels, roughly a $50 million savings. So this does not even factor in the tax benefits of installing early. We should have the switch on for all solar programs by the end of 2024.
Fantastic. May I have a motion to approve?
I have a couple questions, but I can wait till after. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Great. Questions? Mr. Lawrence?
I'll be honest, it's 540 pages agenda item. I was trying to get to the maybe I missed it. Is there total expenses that we're outlining for this, minus what we think we're going to save from it, which I think is like $2 million, what we talked about, correct? Something like that per year. And then am I right that am I remembering correctly, that part of why we voted earlier on this in March was it got us into the energy savings program before SoCal Edison altered the program, so we're going to be reaping the full benefit value, correct? Those are the
Correct. So the reason this is the third time is we brought this forward prior to April 15th to have a design in place to benefit, to your point, for the net energy metering laws. So we will, provided that we get the grid active by December 31st, 2024, which Forefront believes we can, we will benefit from being able to wholesale power back to the grid as opposed to a discounted rate of a fourth of that.
And the $20 million that this is, $20.5 million is all from the bond that we just passed that we're able to pre-draw out because of the other actions we've taken, correct?
Correct. So this is the $20.5 million will come out of the Series A $85 million draw, of which we are pre-funding the interest, and the taxpayer will not pay on until August of 2026 at the first.
So, but I think it's just particularly creative about this. So not only do they not pay on it, we will start, when do we start saving $2 million? By 2025?
Yeah, so turn on in December 2024, we hit the switch, so the calendar year 25, the second half of fiscal year 24, 25, and the first half of 25, 26, we will benefit from this.
So because of the creative math here and the understanding the mores of the contracts, taxpayers cost nothing, net savings $2 million, leveraging the bond. Because we talked about in the bond passage, there will be additional savings with creative matching funds and other things.
Net savings plus, I think, $2 million in tax incentives plus a percentage based on the Inflation Reduction Act from the Biden administration.
And apart from financial, it makes good sense. One of the things we've talked about for years was having to invest in solar, but we didn't, without a bond, we couldn't do it. It's sustainable. It's the right thing to do. It's a good model for our students. And we will be able to provide a lot of shade, both on fields and in parking lots. So it's a win-win all the way around. So that we had to dive in a little sooner than we'd planned is fine.
This will be something that
We'll reap the benefits sooner.
25 years from now, I imagine folks will look back and be grateful that this board made this move.
Yes, 100%.
And this is general fund money that we will, the $2 million?
Yes.
Correct. This is a net benefit to support us with all things that hit the classroom, because currently energy is taken out of the same pot.
Right.
Terrific, thank you. And all DSA and CEQA regulations pertaining to any of this will be followed, correct?
Absolutely. We already have a CEQA resolution on file from a prior board meeting with the LA County Recorders, and also DSA is, per this contract, Forefront's responsibility to ensure that all those boxes are checked by their firm as they engage in executing this.
Thank you very much.
Is
Any
the
other-
community going to see any action on solar panels this summer?
They will not see any this summer. We'll be out measuring, surveying. The break ground will be in 2024. All the activity is going to hit 2024. And because of that tight timeline, normally we do things on holidays and summers, but because we have to have it on by 2024, we'll have to get creative on a few of our campuses during construction time. Parking could be issues at some points for those where we have solar in their lots, but we will adjust because it's a good problem to have.
Is this the maximum solar we could have installed?
No, we scaled back from having EV charging stations built into this grid, which would have been several $1 million more and would have would have put us in places of having to cut other key projects relating to health, life, safety for the Series A draw. But what we are doing is we're putting the conduit for EV charging stations as we trench. so that in the future, should there be funding or interest in installing them, we don't have to retrench. We can just pull the cabling up, add a couple panels, and go forward.
But as far as like our, because we're not putting on roofs and other things like that in the district on our school sites, right?
Correct,
Because
we can't.
We can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
It's a state law.
So most of this is we have to build we have to build the structure for the solar. We can't add it to existing structures if there's classroom activities happening with them.
Correct. So we, all of these will be either shade, parking shade.
Shade or parking lot.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments or questions? No. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Next is a resolution assigning tax receivables to the tax authority.
Madam President, members of the board, there is a delinquent tax finance authority, and Las Virgenes was a founding member of it. Dr. Gleason.
Madam President, members of the board, one of my proudest achievements is to have been the secretary and treasurer of the statewide delinquent tax finance authority. So we are a teeter district, which means the way revenues flow into a school district is we get property tax and then we get state aid. And if someone is delinquent on their property taxes, there are increased interest and fees, but those property taxes might not hit our general fund if somebody is months and years late. The process of collections is complex. So there's an agency that the statewide delinquent tax board engages with at a fixed interest rate to buy up our delinquent property taxes, give us what is due to us plus a percentage, 8%, and then they get the net benefit of the higher interest rates and the late fees. But we don't have the burden of collections, delays, or the unpredictable revenues. This has been a net benefit to our district. I believe this brings in $50,000, $60,000. I'd have to look at the award schedule. It's not in front of me. But it just helps us have stable revenues on the property tax side, plus 8%.
Fabulous. How creative. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, thank you, Dr. Gleason, in your spare time for serving on this board, or that board. With that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next one is general funds as committed funds. Dr. Stepp.
Dr. Gleason.
Madam President, members of the board, we are going to present a budget for adoption later tonight. And of course, you've heard all about the budget in the public hearing and all the meetings, interim reports prior to now. State law now requires us to only carry a maximum reserve of 10% in our unrestricted reserve, and all other funds need to be committed. The board enacted a commitment of $14 million to Fund 17 late last year to be below that 10% reserve. This year, through our management of the budget, we need to commit another $3.5 million to stay below our 10%. So essentially what we're saying for those in the community is our reserves are now at $17.5 million plus 10% if the board commits it. The recommendation for the board to commit this money is made for the reason of declining enrollment. That can have us have deficit spending should declining enrollment continue and student attendance not rebound in ways that we want to. So your commitment of those funds is a prudent effort to ensure that we have all tools available to us with the increase of benefits and enrollment decline in the future should those factors continue.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I
I'll
have a
second.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
So this 3.5 million also goes into the Fund 17? Is that where?
We won't make that transfer. We'll actually just commit it in Fund 1, knowing that we're going into negotiations. We'd want to see if we actually need to, pending where those land. But what the LA County Office of Education needs to see is that everything over that 10% has been appointed by the board for specific use.
Any other questions?
No.
No? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next one is the approval of a resolution approving and authorizing the execution and delivery of an amendment to the joint exercise of powers agreement relating to the California statewide delinquent tax finance authority for the purpose of removing an existing member. Why would they leave? Okay, Dr. Stepp.
That was a perfect reading, Ms. Stein.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Gleason, I think we're just amending the resolution we just passed.
No, Madam President, members of the board, this statewide tax delinquent board requires that a full board is in place. Long Beach Unified no longer wants to have a representative on the board, and in order to keep a 5-person board, our board here has to act to accept, and all the other JPA board members have to have their board accept our recommendation to appoint the CBO of Torrance Unified to serve, to allow us to continue to benefit from the delinquent tax.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Do we know why Long Beach is getting out of here?
Long Beach shared that they have bandwidth issues and need to focus their time elsewhere.
Don't take any hints.
Indeed.
Yeah, that seems,
Well, okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions or comments? No. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0.
Does this mean you're the president, the secretary, and the treasurer now? Is that-
Right, exactly, right.
We'll always be the secretary and treasurer. That's how it was set up.
So did we just say we have no bandwidth issues? Is that what that resolution just said?
No, I was just reporting the weather as to why Long Beach left.
Okay, now we actually are going to vote to approve our LCAP. So as you describe our LCAP, will you walk through goals from last year, successes, challenges, where we are?
Madam President, members of the board, I am exhausted from the delinquent tax authority JPA items and should turn this over to Ms. Hallie Chambers and Ms. Val Louthian, who have done a lot of heavy lifting, I think 7 revisions with LACO to bring this final draft to the board tonight.
You have no more bandwidth? I'm sorry.
Miss Val Lothian, wow. I think we have a slide for you. Can you pull up that slide from earlier? It's the one with her wearing the tutu. I just want to give her proper recognition. Yes, please look closely. She's absolutely wearing a tutu.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers, for providing that photo.
Oh, my gosh.
Like
Oh,
warm-
no problem. How cute.
It's all part of Barbie Land.
World.
Very cute.
How old is
And why are we showing that picture, Dr. Stapp?
Because last time she was here, last time we showed the picture, she wasn't in the room, so we just wanted to.
No, and so why?
Oh, sorry.
Because she's
It's beyond
recognized as a-
embarrassing her. Oh, sorry. What's the award you mean?
how proud we are of your 40 under 40 award. Very deserved and very proud.
Dr. Stepp, can you please describe
And-
the award?
Let me ask my question because she will know. It used to be a thing where other people could buy tickets and come. Now they don't do that, right?
I don't actually know. I mean, I just found out this
You
week.
tell them you have
so-
a big fan club
Got
that
it.
would like to attend
Yes.
and ask if that, yeah.
I
And
will.
embarrass you, of
We'll all
course.
wear tutus.
That would be great. Excellent.
Congratulations, Val.
Thank you so
Kidding
much.
aside, we're super thrilled for you. You were nominated by the team within the room here that thinks very highly of you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your leadership, energy, and commitment you bring to it, and none less so than the LCAP we're about to hear from right now.
Yes. Boy, do we have a show for you.
Excellent.
So, Madam President, members of the board, we're excited to provide an update to the upcoming LCAP. We wanted to highlight the 4 goal areas that we'll be focusing on the upcoming school year, which are college and career, opportunity and equity, whole child, and professional capacity. Within that, a couple of key components to point out. First, one of the big focus areas for the next year is a curriculum adoption that will focus on mathematics, TK through 12th grade, that Ms. Patterson and Ms. Davenport will be helping to lead and facilitate. Another key highlight is the data monitoring and analysis component, also with a new platform that we are going to be purchasing on Power Schools, which will allow our site administrators to do a deeper dive into the data analysis of our students.
Wait, that's very exciting. So a new data program. So when do we think we'll have that in place?
This summer, in anticipation.
Mike, please, Mike?
It will be in place this summer so that our staff can be trained in August.
Great. Board, I want you to know, because I don't think we shared this, I spoke to Dr. Stepanowski, and he's spoken to Cabinet. We are, now that we're back in the swing of things, we are going to have a data study session, early fall. So this will be part of it, and we will have our new data system to analyze data, right? So get rest on that bandwidth, Dr. Gleason.
Mr. Klein is just waiting to have the budget passed and July 1st to hit, and then he's got everything ready.
Great, thank you.
A couple other key areas to highlight is our focus on chronic absenteeism under the leadership of Assistant Superintendent Falk, and our emphasis on ensuring that our students are coming to school and attending. And then finally, one last key highlight is the counseling supports that we continue to prioritize under the board's vision and direction with ensuring our students have social emotional supports TK through 12th grade. And Ms. Lalfian is going to highlight a few key metrics that we wanted to also share with you this evening.
Okay, I hate to be picky. Do we have any slides for this?
Madam President, we did have slides for the data, but I had asked Ms. Chambers and Ms. Lalfian just to summarize the data highlights. The data for the LCAP is, a lot of it is around teacher assignment and other areas. So the highlights are coming via audio, but that's my fault.
No, that's okay. No fault. Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, we're excited to share with you some of the metrics from the past year. I think it really highlights our commitment to, educational excellence, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. In looking at some of our metrics that we're proud of, our high school graduation rates remain fairly high at 96% last year. Our A to G completion rates also are at 63.6%, which these numbers that we're sharing are significantly higher than the state average, which I think is notable. Our CASP scores in ELA, we had 68.16% of students meeting or exceeding the benchmark there. When compared to the state average, we're 20% higher. In terms of our math scores, we're at 55.56%. And while, it's, a medium score, it is still, again, 20% higher than the state average. So I think along with our focus on curriculum adoption and math, I think it's going to really focus on improving those student outcomes in those areas. And then our AP exam pass rate in the past year was at 68.5%. And I think another thing to note that I highlighted, I think that was it. Those were the metrics that we wanted to highlight as we're looking at the data dive. When we did the LCAP, that was what we were most proud of.
I think one thing to highlight is that high AP pass rate is also along with hundreds more kids taking AP tests. So that stayed static with access and just shows how important increasing access is an opportunity for all. So I know that's a big value of ed services.
Can you repeat the first data point on the 63%? What was that?
That was the A to G completion rate. That was at 63.6%.
So is another way to think of that? Am I right
Go ahead.
that if you don't complete A to G, you're not UC CSU eligible, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding. Yeah.
So a third of our students who are graduating are not UC or CSU eligible. And that to me is a concern. Is that a concern to anybody else, or is that?
Well, what's misleading about that number is that we have a lot of our students who take community college classes that don't get transcripted. So as we get better systems of data, you will want to see how much dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment at our city colleges, because we have a lot of kids who want to take 7 or 8 classes, or they take summer classes. How much of that is hitting the transcript and checking the box through A through G? Because the kiddos aren't looking to make our A through G rate up. They're just looking to have multiple transcripts that can get them into CSU or UC.
Okay, so some grouping of that 37% that's not is, in our mind, UC and CSU eligible. We just don't know what percentage.
Our college going rate is well north of 90%.
Right, I was going to say. And our four-year college rate, I believe, is in the 80%-ish, or higher, higher than 80, but.
Where we don't have students meeting A through G is in the world languages. And a lot of, just a significant portion of the population of students who are not meeting the E requirement for world languages are students with disabilities. Auditory processing, linguistic processing can be challenging. And given that we have stellar programs for students with disabilities, I think we have about, what's our identification rate at high school, Ms. Falk? 12%? No, we're at 9%. So you have 9% there.
And, I know that there was in the past few years, and I think it's turning around now, where a large portion of our high school students were taking foreign language courses, world language courses elsewhere.
Outside of.
And hello, my daughter and son
That's
were
been
one of
true
them.
for
And I think it's
these many
rebounding
decades.
at the high school level, but for a long time they were taking them out. And again, those were not, your choice is, if you transcript them, you can't double dip. So if you apply to college and you want to have that college credit go towards your college, you have to present them with the college transcripts.
Right.
And so you can't double dip. You can't put them on your high school transcript, which is the A through G completion, or you can do either or. You can't do both.
And schedules are just impacted more, we've added to math, we've added to, right?
Yeah.
Schedules, it's always a, high school is a lesson in, what are you going to give up? Because,
Yes.
you have limited days. Time is your most important commodity, and you can't do it all.
These are great questions, though. So as we prepare for a board study session, data study session, these kinds of questions that you want us to get, not what the CalPADS data is, but what is the reality, because
Yeah,
the lost version is
exactly.
unique. We'd be happy to take those in Pathways and elsewhere.
So the other question, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Because we spent a good amount of time digging into math. So I'm surprised that we're highlighting a good math number, because from what I remember looking at, most of the dashboards were blinking red for us. So can you maybe unpack for me the math number you're sharing here, and why that perhaps is a positive indicator when all the numbers we're looking at were maybe not where we want them to be?
Sure, absolutely. And this is my fault. If the board wanted a broader data study tonight, we weren't prepared for that. But to your point, we are seeing a similar trend in mathematics as exists statewide, which is a middle school slide after the elementary school years and a high school rebound. Ms. Patterson, Ms. Davenport are looking into this. But what we highlighted tonight is because it's an LCAP, you're comparing yourself to state and county averages. We are exceeding the state average by 20% in terms of students who have met or exceeded the standards for mathematics scores. Across the state, there is a real challenge with these assessments. And so with us, is it 60, what is it?
Our math is at 55.
55, so that shares you with where 1 and 3 in the state is meeting or exceeding standards.
I guess I would just say, because I think we talked a lot about this in our Pathways meeting, the importance of identifying the illness and calling it out repeatedly. I have a little bit of organ rejection when I hear us highlight the fact as a positive that we're at 55%. It's like that old Saturday Night Live skit when they said, Georgia, we're 49. We just passed Arkansas on the list of, that joke. So half of our kids are not at math. So I think all of our efforts, and I know this is what's happening. I know you guys have marshaled unprecedented resources to go after math. I think it's important for us to keep our eye on that ball that at least, and I'm not saying we're not. So when I hear a positive check mark on math, that's why I want to understand,
Yeah, we were given a broader brushstroke, not the level of detail we were given a data study session, but to your point, I think on page 417 of the LCAP, I say that tongue in cheek, but there is goals and actions in response to a lot of that feedback you've given us around putting significant resources towards mathematics, including a significant adoption next year.
Yes.
and I should read it. I have 100% comfort in after meeting that's happening. I think want to make sure we're all singing from the same song.
Sure, yeah.
Madam President, members of the board, I would just add, and these are great, this is great guidance for us when we think about the study session, but that 55% is the average, right, of all of our students that were assessed. And so our elementary fare even higher, and so that's what gives us a little bit more robust number, the 55%.
And I think also increasing our participation rates is something that we're going to focus on as well. So as students are in those higher grades at the high school level, they might be opting out of taking those tests. So we're not really demonstrating that kind of metric.
This has been an
across the
ongoing
board.
challenge. Is there no way for us to, I don't want to say compensate, but is there no way for us to incentivize?
We will give you a report out, but we have already had a much better turnout. We met our target, so I can get you the exact numbers, but we have already done that at the high schools.
A statewide challenge, again, not an excuse, just a data point, is, and we've talked about this in Pathways, is that the curriculum that was released, if you remember, when the California standards in their latest iteration were passed, math was the first adoption, and there was such a rush to get textbooks that textbook companies basically reorganized books around the old standards, and we had to adopt to the new standards. But a big challenge is the pedagogical methodology along with the content is not representative in current materials. The good news
Right.
there is that we have new materials on the way.
I mean, we've been talking about that. We've been laying that groundwork since Pathways last year, and we've identified this. So it's not like a new revelation. I feel quite good with all the steps we've taken and a lot of the new, especially the new courses and new pathways in the high school.
I believe we have a Pathways meeting in August at some point. So what I'd like to suggest is that we put the study session on there so we can start figuring out what kinds of data we want. And I know Mr. Lawrence is very good at coming up with what kind of data points that we should see. And board, if you have any, email me or email Dr. Gleason or Ms. Patterson, and we will make sure to include that. But it'll be a thorough, deep dive into data. And honestly, just a side note, for me, it's a very exciting time because, thank you, I think. Because we are really getting deep, with the new data system, with the new work being done on math. I mean, it is really exciting. So thank you.
I would love to just if we could put a question for the future, if it's possible to know, because we've had this challenge in the past with high-performing students who are so focused on their finals or focused on other things are the ones who are in many cases like, I just don't really want to do one more test, that doesn't have an impact on me. Do we have a way of knowing, like, where 4.0 and above students are 50% less likely to take LCAP? Like, do we have that quantified in a spreadsheet so we can actually see? We feel it intuitively, but I haven't seen in one spot that says, actually, our highest performing students are disproportionately by 30% not taking it. That would just be interesting for me to be able to see.
We can have that for you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say I want to discount this test,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's not the best metric of what we're teaching.
We do have a slide.
Our participation,
Oh,
our
yeah. No.
participation
No, it
rates
hasn't.
at the high schools were on target for the 94-95% minimum that we wanted to achieve. We were on point this year.
Okay. Great, good work.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I got.
Just wanted to say again, thank you for all the input to our various educational community partners, and excited to bring these goals forward.
Madam President, members of the board, I think it's important to just continue to highlight that this is the product of a year's worth of work through multiple committees, not only board committees, but through our LCAP committee involving many stakeholders. So 200 pages of very great detail has been vetted, I know, by all of you. I just think it's important to share that with the community, that this has had a lot of fingerprints before bringing to you for approval tonight.
Motion, oh, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Hal and Val, the team of Hal and Val, for all the work on this. This is a tremendous lift, so thank you very much.
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
No, I'm just glad to see us spending time on things that are about our core mission. Yeah.
We can go into more if you want.
Nope.
Okay. Over.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We have an LCAP.
Yeah.
And next, we need a budget. Dr. Stepanowski, 23-24 budget.
Madam President, members of the board, as Dr. Gleason said earlier, we have breaking news that we do have a budget for the state, which is terrific. We, in accordance with AB 1200 requirements, held our public hearing on June 6th. There's an executive summary attached, and this is simply the state law requiring the board to pass this budget prior to July 1st. Dr. Gleason.
Madam President, members of the board, this is, we're bringing back the item that you had already reviewed through the public hearing in great detail 2 weeks ago. The statute requires us to hold a public hearing and then have the board approve it in open session. So this is the second part of the statutory requirement. There are no significant changes to the budget as was presented 2 weeks ago. We do look forward to incorporating the latest hot off the press today budget details into the budget, which will then, after also summer negotiations, be brought back to you in the 45-day revise, as well as when we present unaudited actuals and begin the cycle all over. Bottom line, I can certify we are in good position to exceed the 3% out-year reserve as our budget currently is formed to ensure that we meet that statutory requirement.
Thank you very much.
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions, comments?
Will we see, maybe, I don't want to ask for a Friday letter over the next 6 weeks, but your assessment of the budget that passed today before the next, like, when will we get kind of your sense of?
Yeah, I could put that in a Friday letter this week.
Big things we didn't expect and impacts. It doesn't need to be exhaustive, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll do a Friday letter this week because there was another.
It can be next week. I'd like to get a sense before.
You got it.
The budget looks decent for school districts, correct?
Yeah, so the budget is 8.22%, which was the governor's proposal, was also the legislative compromise. So they landed there, fully funded COLA, not withdrawing from the rainy day reserves. A couple of the big talking points were would they take back one-time funded programs such as the Arts Instructional Materials Block Grant and the Learning Recovery Block Grant. Governor proposed significant cuts to those, and the legislature protected those, given that a lot of districts, unlike ours, negotiated those away. So the final budget preserves that one-time funding for us, which allows us to continue a lot of our programs that we had funded through that. Bottom line is the legislative proposal anticipated $2 billion in revenues, that $2 billion more in revenues than the governor's economists did. And so we always love optimistic outlooks because they make for more flourishing budgets now, but if in the fall revenues do not fall in line with the legislative analyst office, and they're more in line with the governor's office, we could be looking at deferrals. So we want to make sure we protect the reserve for all scenarios in this unpredictable economy that is also rooted in where our enrollment is.
Great.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
I thought I made one. No?
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay.
I made one, right? Yeah, motion.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Mrs. Falk, do we have a motion and a second? Thank you very much. Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Do we have a budget?
Aye.
Aye, we have a budget. Thank you very much. Dr. Gleason, in your spare time. Okay. We need an approval of a declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
So moved.
Dr. Stepp.
Oh, sorry. We do this one every year. This one's basic, so. But
Dr.
go
Stepp.
ahead.
Everything Mr. Lawrence said. This is an annual CTC requirement. Dr. Seifrieds.
Madam President, members of the board, annual CTC requirement. The intent is staff is seeking approval for this item. Declaration of need allows us to provide emergency credentials to apply regular teaching positions for folks in the district.
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions?
No, standard operating procedure.
Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, passes 5-0. Now we are on our last item, approval of list of security services firms on an as-needed basis. Dr. Stepp.
Madam President, members of the board, we have continued to review our security services and the protections we provide our staff and students. A big part of that has been the addition of Covered 6 this year. We have 2 of Covered 6 finest in the room with us tonight. But as much as we appreciate Covered 6 and their partnership with us, sometimes they don't have enough people for us or all of our school events, since we are the largest employer and largest landowner across the region. So Ms. Falk, in her extensive work on school safety security, wanted to add other approved agencies that are PFCs, PFAs, and schools could access should events require. Ms. Falk.
So, Madam President, members of the board, as Dr. Stepanovsky said, we often have the need to hire additional security firms for various school activities. Ms. Beater and myself requested 19 security firms submit applications based on our criteria, 6 submitted applications. We screened the applicants based on criteria that were received from ASCIP. 4 of those 6 met our criteria. So we're seeking board approval tonight to use these firms on an as-needed basis with no guarantee of work.
Right. So it's just a pre-approved list of people who meet that slightly higher threshold of
That is
what we
correct.
want, so that sports activities, PFC things. So straightforward. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry,
Question?
so this is the list that the PFC, if they want to have an event,
One of these.
they have to pick one of these. Is it
Yeah.
only 5 now? It's covered 6 plus these 4, or is it? So we have,
Well,
Secural's on
Secure
here.
is actually one of these.
So they
yeah.
have a choice of 5. Are they all the same price? Do we have like, have we negotiated like a bulk rate that's consistent across them, or?
So a couple things. This is typically going to be the list that PFC uses for after-school activities. Covered 6 will be used by the district for in-school activities.
Okay.
So typically, PFCs will not be using
Okay.
Covered 6. And the price varies. That was one of the criterias we set up. Some were $27 an hour, some were up to $85 an hour. That was one of the criterias we looked at. So they still will need to seek district approval prior to a PFC reaching out to contract with one of these agencies.
And these are authorized to be armed, correct?
That is, they have the option to be armed, correct.
And our policy allows them, if a PFC wants to hire an armed guard for an event from this list, they're allowed to do that.
So they're allowed to do that. They would need to contact the district. That would go through me.
Yeah.
They'd submit their application. We'd look at why they need an armed guard. So yes, they have the option to do that. And it is in all of their contracts. And that was one of the criteria. They had to meet a certain requirement in order to be armed.
Okay, thank you.
So how does the PFCs know who to go through? So they can't just say, oh, we want security, so we're going to contact ABC security company. How do they get this information?
So next year, we're setting up a process on a Google Doc where the PFC president will work with the school principal. The school principal will submit a Google Doc, which will come to me, stating what the event is, who they need, and who they want to contact. We will give the principal approval, who will then pass that along to the PFC, who will then bill the district, and then the PFC will then reimburse the district.
Okay, so the PFCs will somehow receive information that they can only use this and to work through the principal?
That is correct.
Okay.
So I have like, the reason why I was asking, I was trying to figure out, this might be like too much homework. Feel free to say, no, I don't want to do it. But I'd love to get a sense, like maybe in 12 months, how much our PFCs in total are spending on security for the district? Because if it's a lot, you might want to, it might make sense to go back and contract with, 1 or 2 of these for a guaranteed set amount of hours at a reduced price, saving everybody money. But is it not a lot? Is it just, is it so ad hoc, it's small?
It's not a lot.
One of the reasons why we did it hourly is because there is a minimum amount that all of these agencies require in order to be available to hire, and it was more than we were currently spending if we paid them hourly, which is why I can't tell you site by site. There obviously are certain sites who want more than others. But in general, it didn't make any sense fiscally to have a contract with them like we do with Covered 6.
Okay.
It tends to be big events. It tends to be
Correct.
certain, yeah. It's
Well,
not-
some schools want them for assemblies. Some PFCs want them for their parent night. So it all varies.
Okay.
Thank you. With that, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. And with that, we're going to wish everyone a happy summer and a happy July. Our next board meeting will be in August. So I hope everyone here on the dais is going to get some vacation and some downtime, because Cabinet, you work very hard.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for everything. And with that, I will gavel. We're out.